friend, my name is Doombabe, and today we are going to be talking about the 7 Deadly Sins, which is a 24-episode shonen anime that was created by Aniplex and released on Netflix that tells the story of Elizabeth and Meliodas. Meliodas is running his tavern in an attempt to gain information on the 7 Deadly Sins, a group of holy knights that betrayed their government 10 years prior, of which he makes up of one member, Wrath. Elizabeth, who is an escaped princess, literally stumbles into his bar due to exhaustion, and when the pair find out that they have similar goals, they team up and embark on an adventure to bring the 7 Deadly Sins together and take down the corrupt holy knights to save their land. So I didn't really dig the opening bit that was all like, "This is a tale of ancient times." At first, I didn't mind it. I thought it was neat. I thought, it set the mood pretty well, and I thought it transitioned nicely into the actual opening itself, which definitely harbored its fair share of cliches with staring off into the distance with the wind blowing your hair around and running, but it wasn't necessarily bad. It accurately represented the series, and that's what an opening is supposed to do. It's supposed to give you a hint as to what the series is, and it's supposed to sort of set the mood. And the song Netsujo no Spectrum by Ikimono Gakara was very catchy and it was very pleasant to listen to. But then the second opening came in and I thought it was just kind of weird to have the same style of opening while changing it as much as they did. And it didn't really change for the better, so it was a definite step down from the previous opening. I guess that was the big thing. I wasn't really satisfied with the second opening just because it wasn't as nice as the first one, and the first one wasn't really that nice to begin with, so. Part of that probably has to do with how the song changed to this rock song called The 7 Deadly Sins by a man with a mission, which wasn't really that good. I mean, the rhythm was good, but I didn't like that cooing that kept happening. That kind of killed it for me. So remember that Naruto Shippuden closing that I said it was just so bizarre. I feel like I was watching a car crash. I wanted to look away. I wanted it to stop. This was a lot like that. I mean, even the song 7 by Flo, who made a lot of Naruto opening songs, sounded very much the same, even if the bands were completely different. And maybe I shouldn't have brought that up. But with the song similarities and, the general tone of the actual video itself, this wasn't as, bizarre and as drug-induced as the Naruto one. This was like a much more laid-back version. Though I noticed that the animation quality definitely took a noticeable dip when it came to the closing because the movements were not as fluid and they just didn't seem as nice. They almost came off as kind of awkward. And then the second closing rolled around and it just wasn't interesting at all. It was boring and generic, especially because it followed a closing like that. And I like the first one way better, if anything, because it was just genuinely entertaining. Because the second closing was just stills, and you guys all know how I feel about stills, so we're not gonna get into that. And I can see that the creators did, go the extra mile to make the stills kind of interesting. I started to say entertaining, but then interesting came out and I got confused. But I could tell that they put some work into creating the stills so they were interesting to look at. It was just still boring. This has a terrible script. It is so ridiculous and just absurd that it's almost offensively so. You've got the main character that's totally OP and can't cook and he's a pervert, and then you've got his main bitch, which is a busty ditz, and you've got the girl that's also very busty and cute that's pining over him, and then you've got the first main antagonist that's after the group because he wants to avenge his father. And then the entire series it just felt like it was entirely composed of plot devices and tropes. It was like every time the crew encountered a sin or their objective, it was always a situation where they just happened to be in the right place at the right time. It almost felt like the writers were really only interested in, the beginning and the end, but they didn't really care so much about what happened in the middle. Though I will admit that there was a fair amount of humor that did make me smile. I didn't laugh or really find myself all that entertained, but there were a few moments, like once or twice an episode, where I would crack a grin because of something funny that happened. Why else would I grin? What is wrong with me today? This was all after Bon was introduced because, you know, I have a soft spot for the mischievous bad boy types. The amount of pig jokes made by the pig and to the pig were just, no. They were sophomoric at best, and really the irony of the pig making the pig joke stopped being even remotely entertaining by like episode 5 or 6. So after that point, the best I could do was roll my eyes whenever they made a swine joke or he called someone a hamhead or something, and that was really only when I could be bothered to put forth the effort of rolling my eyes. However, I do feel like the fight scenes were well created. Poorly scripted because, again, they had a really bad script. Oh my god, just every time someone opened their mouth in a fight, I just wanted to stop. But I genuinely enjoyed how the fights progressed because it was very entertaining. I liked how everyone's powers were brought to light as time went on, and in terms of progression, I really liked how the fights evolved. I liked how they fleshed everything out. It's like they really took their time with the fighting scenes to make them entertaining. Especially that big fight at the end, that was really fun to watch. The creators were even kind enough to put the names of the magic moves that were being used by each character on the screen, and was it entirely necessary? No, but it did help keep the viewer from being completely overwhelmed by all of these different attack names, especially since there were some scenes where there were like 5 or 6 people beating the crap out of each other. So when you have, you know, little reminders of what some of these names are called, that does actually help a lot. I really wasn't a fan of the art style used for Seven Deadly Sins. I mean, it wasn't bad in terms of quality, because I mean, the world design was gorgeous. I really loved a lot of the character designs, and in terms of, you know, just general quality, it wasn't bad. You know, things looked nice, and they used colors very well. But the anatomy was just weird. I mean, the facial anatomy almost was like reminiscent. It almost looked like a cross between like old DBZ art with the big foreheads and the really round cheeks and sometimes the eye shapes, and then like they mashed DBZ with modern anime. And in terms of the body anatomy, it was like the chicks were super like obnoxiously sexualized to the point where it's just stupid. I mean, they had these really huge boobs, and boobs, whatever, but the hips were so round, and then like they still had that thigh gap, so it looked like their hips were broken, and then the men had these really huge shoulders and chests, but then they had legs that weren't really proportionate to their upper bodies. And then Bon was supposed to be in this like jail cell for 10 years being pinned to a wall, so long that his hair was all long and scraggly, but when he leaves, he still has a sculpted six-pack, and I kind of just feel like the creators should take an anatomy course before they make anything else. Also, I still can't figure out what color Elizabeth's hair is. Is it green? Is it blue? Is it gray? It kept changing hue throughout the series, and I just got confused, and it was really annoying. Outside of those things that really squicked me, I actually really like the character designs, especially with the Holy Knights, and especially with the, I think they're called the Weird Horns, because the Holy Knights were very creatively made. I loved how they looked. I loved how they all had their own unique feel to them, while still maintaining some aspects that reminded you that they're all still a part of the Holy Knight Order. Is it an order? It's a knight. Oh, knights are in orders, right? I don't think they really elaborated on that. They always just called them the Holy Knights. That's irrelevant. The world design wasn't shabby either. Everything was beautifully created with a ton of detail, from the texture of roof shingles to the shape of the bricks in the buildings, and it was very clear that no effort went wasted. The coloring and shading were just as perfect. And I don't mean to give them too much credit, but with the attention to detail and their use of coloring, it was almost comparable to a work by like maybe Studio Ghibli. And before you rip off my head and shit down my neck like I know you are about to in the comments below, I said they are comparable, not on par. So calm down. In terms of animation, I will admit that the animators did a fantastic job. Everything was smooth and fluid, and I can't really think of any moments that made me think to myself, oh, you know, that could have been done a lot better, or, oh, they really took a shortcut on that. No, the animation was really nice. So, truth be told, I actually enjoyed this. And I don't really understand why. It wasn't very well written in the slightest. The progression was terrible. It used a lot of tropes. There were a lot of things that really irritated me. I'm pretty sure this was an ecchi, and I still found myself watching the entire series in one day. And usually when it comes to series of this length, it takes me 2 or 3 days to get through. But I sat down and I started watching it, and the next thing I knew, I was watching the final boss fight, and I was like, where did the time go? I guess this is just one of those anime where it's entertaining even if it's not good. Sort of like High School of the Dead. I also think it reminded me a little much of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, you know, with the 7 deadly sins and the red tattoos and the intro piece. So that probably had something to do with it. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the 7 deadly sins. Have you seen it? Which sin was your favorite? Honestly, I was kind of tied between Bon and Gauther, because I really liked Gauther, because, you know, I kind of like characters like that, but then you've got the mischievous bad boy, and he was just funny, and he made me giggle. Otherwise, you can find all of my social media in the description below, and remember that tomorrow, November 7th, Saturday, we are doing a 24-hour charity stream for Extra Life on the Gamer Assault Weekly channel, which I will link in the description below. So be sure to check that out. If you weren't able to make it to the last charity stream that we did last Saturday with The Walking Dead, you know, I don't know what I'm going to be playing. I am playing at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. CST, I believe. Uploading Kristen will take care of that. Definitely, if you don't have anything to donate, just stop by, say hi. We're doing giveaways, we're doing fun stuff. It's gonna be great, it's gonna be a party. I'm sure quite a few of us are going to get drunk as well. Probably not me, because I got kind of smashed like last weekend, and I don't need to do that again anytime soon. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye!